connected world. It's true, everyone is very keen on this idea of an Internet of Things. I have some doubts. I'm not that keen on the idea of my fridge being able to notice when I'm running out of milk and ordering it for me from Sainsbury, but that's only one example of the sorts of things that can go on. It's happening. We need to find out where the real opportunity is there. We're not presupposing, by the way, that in any of our domains that we work, there will be useful things to do. And as our program evolves, I think it's likely that we'll end up with certain areas turning out to be more important than others. Electricity for the future. Obviously, electricity, our favourite form of energy. And photovoltaics are interesting. Wind turbines are interesting. Did you know that in wind turbines, for a long time, the problem has been the mechanical problems of the gearboxes. And those have proven unreliable. But that's kind of solved now. And the problem there, we discover, turns out to be not in mechanical parts, but in the power converters. So these are sort of rather unexciting technology, but power conversion, AC to DC, stepping voltages up and down, turns out there's a bit of a hole. Some of you may have noticed in the summer, there was a story going around in papers that quite a lot of people have been attracted by this new scheme where you can sell electricity back to the grid and have bought solar panels on their roofs, but have been unable to take advantage of the summer because there's been no power converters. There's a single source of those available in Germany, and so that was rather underscored the fact that there's a big opportunity there in a technology which got room for improvement. It's one of those things where you can do it now, but there's room for improvement, and there's certainly room for a UK supply chain in providing some of these novel things, because the newer devices now are more commonly working on low voltage DC. So how are we going to manage that? And part of our job in the KTN is to take that holistic view and say, well, okay, it's not just about the power converters, but let's look at the whole problem and see what the opportunities are, working with appropriate other sorts of people. And finally, wouldn't want it to give the impression that we're only concerned with the very short-term goals. I think it's right that our portfolio of activity includes a lot of activity that's in the short term. At the moment, it's just the environment that we're all living in about showing that we need to make impact. But we recognise very much that mid and long term, it's important that we keep the underpinning research and a general flow of knowledge about technologies that are further out into the future quite helpful. Otherwise, the pipeline runs dry eventually. And a lot of these things, the interventions that we make into the past may take 5 or 7 years before they turn into real products. So we recognise that we need to support that. So we've kept this idea of knowledge base support as a collection point, if you like, for those very low TRL things that we're not quite sure what they're going to do yet, but which we know might be important. So, next important lesson, I think you can make your own luck. I think anybody who's been involved in knowledge sharing and this kind of business development opportunity, I hope, would agree. But it's very simple. The more you know about who's got what and who needs what, the more the connections just appear in front of you. It's like watching somebody else paint a wall. It's very easy to see the bits they've missed. And when you come in from the outside and start to see these connections, it's very easy to see that. But how do you do that? The problems that I'm seeing now in knowledge transfer, and have seen probably all the time I've been working in it, are not the ones that I thought they would be, compared with when I was in the lab, not having to talk to other humans. The types of problems is not about money. It's not about people being unwilling or uninterested to work outside of their domain or look at other things. My observation would be that, with almost no exception, this idea of the need to do networking and the value in working across sectors is on everybody's list. The problem we face is that it's here on a list that's this long, and how to find the time. How do people find the time to try and do that. Now, the KTNs are working hard. We do meetings. But what we're trying to do going forwards is pool this knowledge as much as possible and find a way of creating communities around problems. Because at the moment, this is a great way of getting leverage in terms of joining people together and solving problems that make an impact. And so the direction I'm taking you now is to look at this website here, which is Connect. This is the web platform that is provided to the knowledge transfer networks by the Technology Strategy Board. And the idea of this is very much more Web 2.0 than the old style of publishing as a way of getting information out. What's happened here, and it's a relatively new site. It was launched this year, and it's growing and developing. But already you can see helpful things by having all of the KTNs using one site. We'll get a live demonstration of this later, but you can search for things and you'll get results which are not just in a particular KTN. You'll find links coming from other places. And I'm trying to find a way of describing this. When you first get into it, it's a bit like a city, and insofar as you've got to sort of figure out where things are, but peel off the layer and look underneath it, and what you'll find are groups and subgroups collecting around particular interests. And these are like the villages, if you like. So hence, in a village, you get to start to know everybody's name and who's participating and what's going on. And without wishing to steal David's thunder, I think he wants to talk a bit more about this shortly. A particular village I will just draw attention to is this one. One of the groups is about innovation. So we set up this group here, Innovation Champions. And the idea of this is that it's a support mechanism for people who are interested in innovation. So there are articles and ideas kicking around about doing innovation. But also we're dragooning people as we visit them in small companies to nominate innovation champions. And our feeling on this is that even if it just gives them something to break the ice with when they're phoning somebody else up, if they've got another company's innovation champion to talk to, even if the conversation starts with, no, I don't know what it means either. By the way, I'm interested in this thing you've got, and it gives a platform for conversation. So what happens here is that you can join groups, and eventually you'll notice in typical style, you build a page which has the particular groups in that you're interested in. So in a sense, we're moving away from the fact of it mattering particularly what KTN you're a member of or where a group lives. It's more about associating people around a particular interest wherever they come from. So I think that's probably the right time to draw in. Hopefully you detected what I was working together for here as I built up my Venn diagram. Over coffee later, you can tell me if you guess why we've been using these particular symbols. But the point we're reaching for here is that most of what we do, most of the technologies we work with, or the technologies and the areas that you're in, are very rarely out here at the far end of an ellipse with only one application and one thing to do. Most people are working much nearer the middle here, where it turns out that there's overlaps with other types of application. And the magic happens when you find this, because you find entirely new ways of doing things, but also you open up new markets and build a case, be it as an academic, for saying, yes, I need this grant funding because this will be my impact, or whether you're a company thinking, well, I want to raise funding for this and I can show how many applications I've got. So I'm going to stop there, and there's questions later, and I'll move over and hand over to David.